So this video, we're going to talk about how to get out of a plateau. If you're a swim parent with a swimmer who's in a plateau, or you yourself are the swimmer, you've been in a plateau for 6 months, a year, 2 years, 30 years. We have got people out of plateaus. It's like our specialty. It's like what we do. And here's, in this video, what I see time and time again, and the commonalities between people that are able to get out of their plateau and people that kind of stay stuck. So in this video, I'm going to talk to you about what we do in our memberships. If you want to join those memberships, then there'll be a link somewhere around here where you can just get straight stuck in, and our app will follow you through the workouts. Really easy to follow, and we progress you as you need to. That's the easy thing to do. That's the quickest thing to do. But if you're stuck, or your swimmer is stuck, here are the main things. First of all, you probably do not have a training problem in terms of what you're doing in the pool necessarily, right? And even if you did have a training problem in terms of your pool work, a lot of swim coaches can't, or their egos are too big to actually admit that they're doing something wrong and to change things for you. Swim coaches, you kind of have to just meet them where they're at and focus on what you can focus on. You're not going to win an argument with the coach. You either have to switch clubs if you're going to do that, or that's a big hassle. It's probably not going to happen, and it's unfortunate. I wish that everyone had a swim coach that suited their style of training. That's why we have our elite membership with the neurotyping and stuff, so that we're giving you stuff that is suited to your personality, your training type, your body. But because we're stuck with that, all we can do is focus on what we're doing outside of the pool. And we have had so many swimmers, we get messages almost daily from swimmers on our programs who have just changed what they're doing outside of the pool. Nothing has changed inside the pool, and they're breaking their plateaus. They're going PBs again regularly. It's not just like you break your plateau once and then you're back to being, you have this crazy moment. It's like, no, you build the foundation so that everything is getting better afterwards as well. And one of the biggest things is just cutting the fluff. So that's step number one. Cut the fluff. Cut the stuff that is not making you faster, right? If you do not have a very good hunch that this thing is going to make you faster, let me give you some examples. If you are doing bodybuilding workouts in the gym, maybe you've taken it upon yourself to go to the gym, doing bodybuilding workouts, what you're going to end up doing, what always ends up happening with people that I talk to that are doing bodybuilding workouts, is they see a little bit of a boost for a few weeks, maybe a month or two, but then they plateau hard on those gains because you get a little bit of a hormonal boost. Lovely. You get some new neural drive. It's something novel. It's something new for your body to process. So you get a little bit of adaptation in the start. Then what starts to happen is you start adapting to the bodybuilding workouts, and you start becoming and moving like a bodybuilder. People end up getting stiffer. They end up not being able to move as well, which makes them less efficient, which means their endurance is going to suck. So you become less efficient at being a swimmer. Another thing that people do, and again, this is something you can't always get out of, but a lot of swim programs, a lot of swim coaches run dryland programs that are burpees or random med ball throws with no purpose, no execution, no progressions. You're not recording anything. So everything's random. There's no focus. You're doing exercises that are not actually building strength. Like doing 100 crunches doesn't build core strength. Unless you are weak as a potato, then that stuff, that chill bodyweight stuff, going for a burn, going for the grind, trying to get a sweat on, that stuff doesn't improve your strength. You need to actually do strength training. That's what strength training is for. And I'll get into that in a sec. But when you're doing these things, whatever else you're doing, that is like, a lot of people are running. Like, just if you want to improve your swimming, you probably want to just swim better. You don't need to add running. Running is like the least transferable thing. It's just like all of these things, right? They are going to make you tired because they are not focused on you getting better as an athlete, right? They are just focused on getting you tired and general stuff that might be really nice for, like mums or, dads or normal people that have normal jobs that are not trying to be high performance athletes. Getting a sweat, getting a burn, just moving, doing bodybuilding, doing CrossFit, whatever makes you like start moving, for those people, all that stuff is great, right? But when you're trying to be high performance, you have to zone in, you have to trim the fat, you have to cut out the stuff that is not making you a better athlete, because you're trying to maximize your results, right? You're a finely tuned beast, right? You can't be wasting energy on things that aren't making you faster. And not only are all these things not making you faster, they are taking up energy that you could be recovering. So the biggest thing in swimming right now, and probably has been for 40 years, is trying to get people to understand you do not get better from training. You get better from recovering from training, right? So if we actually were recording stuff, if we actually took the time to focus in, and I understand it's hard as a swim coach, you can't be like recording everybody's everything unless you cut some of the volume, because I was able to do that when I was a swim coach. Anyway, you can't record stuff all the time if you've got massive groups of hundreds of kids. Fair enough, but you can like do as little as possible, and then if everyone is still getting better, great, keep doing as little as possible. The whole point of what we do in our gym programs is to give you the biggest benefit for the least pain, or the least effort, or the least fatigue. Because when you get the biggest bang for your buck, you're building strength, you're building mobility, you're building power, you're becoming a more efficient human being. None of that actually matters if you can't recover from that training, if you're not also recovering from your swim training. That's why our sessions are so short, right? We're like 45 minutes in the gym 3 times a week, and most of that is just resting, just sitting around, right? Of actual work time in the gym, it's like less than 5 minutes, probably like 3 minutes or something. So the point of all that is that we are not wasting any time on stuff that isn't making us faster. So that time that you're cutting the garbage, it's not like you're just cutting out stuff that isn't helping. That energy is going to recover you. You're going to feel better. You're going to recover faster. You're going to sleep better, right? Because you're actually going to be recovering from the work. That's the most important part, right? You shouldn't be doing anything that you can't recover from, because it's pointless. It's just hard and getting in the way. So that's the first thing. Trim the fat. If you're doing any of the stuff that I've mentioned here, honestly, you're probably going to get better just by getting rid of that stuff. Honestly. Okay. That's the first thing. The second thing. You know what? I'm going to put this in here. There's something that you can do right now, today, that is going to give you, it's like the closest thing that we have to like a quick fix, and it's not like you do it and then you're magically better, but it's something you can start today that is not going to take very much time. It is going to make you feel better. It is going to help you recover faster. It's going to help you absorb more of the gains that you're getting from your training. We have had people break plateaus just by adding this in each day, and it's our neuroprimer. So what it is basically a series of, we start with eye movements to wake up the brain, calibrate things, get your brain synced up. Basically stuff that your eyes are a direct window into how your brain is working. And if you can't converge properly, if you can't focus on something while it's moving, if you can't do your saccades, if you can't switch, it means there are things in your brain that need to be stimulated, and just stimulating those things is going to make a massive difference. You might not have any problems with those, but if you do, and most people do, just doing those eye moves is going to improve your posture. When you improve your posture, you're going to improve the signals that are going in and out of your brain. So you're going to spend less energy to be more efficient with all of your movements in general, like fundamentally, you're going to be calmer, you're going to be able to recover better because you're not in fight or flight all the time. And these are all benefits that are all from the different stuff that we do in the neuroprimer. But we start with the eyes. You will notice a difference when you do the eyes and then you go into the spinal hygiene afterwards. When I first did this, I was doing the spinal hygiene stuff, and then I started doing the eye moves, and then suddenly I was cramping up in my core muscles, in my spine, when I was doing the spine moves afterwards, because just doing the eye moves was activating something in your brain that is allowing you to access greater ranges of motion. So then we go into the spinal hygiene, which is basically just taking your spine through some basic full ranges of motion. We start with the neck, these, just doing a few rounds of those, getting the spine moving. If you go to the neuroprimer, you'll see all of those. If you go into our free community, there'll be a link somewhere to our free community. Get in there, completely free. The neuroprimer's in there. It'll walk you through these step by step. But those spine moves are going to open up space, going to, again, just feed your brain with lots of movement. Your brain loves information. The more information your brain can have through your spine, which carries like all of your nervous system to your brain, when you can make that more mobile, when you can free that up, it's like you're taking the kinks out of the hose, right? So you're going to become more efficient. A lot of people have given us feedback that doing the spinal hygiene moves, doing the neuroprimer, has given them like spiritual awakenings, just because they're probably getting into rest and digest mode for the first time in like a long time. That's happened to me before, and it feels amazing. And that's why your recovery is going to improve. Not to mention also doing these spine moves. Your spine is kind of the center of all of your movement, right? If you're trying to improve your shoulder mobility, your shoulder is connected to your spine. If you improve your spine mobility, there's going to be more room for your shoulders to move. If you improve, your spine is also connected to your hips. If you're trying to improve hip mobility, getting more mobile in the spine is going to improve that too. So doing these movements, you might be a little bit sore when you first start them, just because you probably just haven't moved your spine through a full range of motion, like ever. So when you do these, you might be sore for a few days, just a little bit, but past that, they are not going to take any energy. They are going to feed you with energy, right? It's going to make you feel better. It's going to improve your recovery. So it's an amazing way, the neuroprimer, to get some really good stimulus into your body that is going to make everything else better without adding any extra fatigue. If you start doing the neuroprimer and you start yawning, or you start burping is one, or you start like sneezing, these are really good signs that you are getting into rest and digest mode, and that mode is going to help your recovery so much. And especially with today, with screens and with stress of school and work and the world as it is, basically stressing us out, this is something that is going to not take very long and it'll help combat all of that stuff. So just neuroprimer there, very, very good idea, very simple, completely free. People have broken their plateaus just by adding that in. So go do it if you're not. Really, really important. The third part, so we've done trim the fluff, do the neuroprimer. The next part is, if we think about being efficient, let's go into technique and mobility, right? Everyone talks about how your technique is the most important thing in swimming. And yes, okay, good. Fair enough. The more efficient your technique, the better your endurance is going to be, because you're working less hard to go the same speed. The faster you're going to be, because you're not having to, you have less resistance holding you back from going top speed. It is not necessarily the strongest people that are the fastest swimmers. However, people hear, oh, technique is the most important thing, therefore I should be focusing on technique all the time, and I don't need to be worrying about strength. This is like such a backwards paradox, because if you're doing proper strength training, part of that strength training is going to improve your mobility, right? In our memberships, we have our mobility bundle, which we kind of is like add-ons, which you can do to specifically work on specific areas of mobility that are like short workouts that you can do to build strength in like end ranges and specific stuff. But just doing like general strength training with a full range of motion is going to be massive for improving mobility, massive. And we hear all the time from members that, oh, my technique got better. I've been working on this thing on my technique and it just improved. It just like fixed itself after a few months on your program. It's because technique wasn't your issue. It was the fact that you didn't have the body awareness, you didn't have the proprioception, you didn't have the ability or the mobility to get into those positions in the first place. If we use an example of a high elbow catch, that's an easy one to imagine. You're trying to get high elbow catch, you're trying to get into that internally rotated shoulder position. Lots of people are going to be spending technique sessions on trying to improve their high elbow catch. If you do not have the mobility to get into the high elbow catch position naturally, if you're not strong enough there, all you're going to do is, okay, first of all, you're going to struggle to get into that position in the first place. Second of all, if you do get into that position, you're going to be compensating with something else. So maybe you get that high elbow position, but you're turning so far with the rest of your body that your hips are dropping and you're actually creating more resistance, right? And this is the problem with people like just trying to fix their technique, is because focusing on technique, often you're focusing on like one part of your technique, and what that does a lot of the time is you just end up compensating somewhere else. You end up fixing that one thing, but you don't actually get faster because you didn't fix the root cause of the problem, right? And I'm not saying technique training is bad, right? But it's pretty useless if fundamentally you do not have the mobility or you do not have the strength to get into these positions in the first place. Another thing strength training is going to give you, if you're swimming all the time, you're not doing tons of other sports, that feeling of your body. When you're in the water, all you're feeling is the water. You can't necessarily feel yourself in space. Like a really common thing with swim coaches that's really annoying is like backstroke, crossing over on backstroke. You see swimmers crossing over the top on their backstroke because they think that they are entering perfectly in line with their shoulder, but because they don't have the body awareness, they can't feel that. So they end up just going here, and you're like, okay, try and imagine that you're swimming out here, and they say here again because they think that they are, because they don't have that body awareness. When you do strength training, particularly with the isometric stuff that we use, you are getting so in tune with your body so that not only can you get into these positions and get strong there, you can be aware of what your body is doing in the water, so you can feel things better, you can feel the water better. Like, a lot of people give me feedback when they start hanging, for instance. When they start hanging, you're in that hanging position, arms overhead, basically in like a somewhat streamlined sort of position, but you are stimulating, you're going against gravity and all of that, and you're stimulating your hands, you're stimulating your shoulders, you're stimulating your spine, all of that stuff in that one position. So you become really, really good at feeling that position. You start to understand that, and that's why lots of people, when they start hanging, the way that we do it, their streamlines improve, butterfly improves, freestyle improves, and it's not necessarily because they like improved or changed their technique. It's because they were able to actually feel where their body was in space, so they could improve that stuff immediately, naturally, without really even thinking about it. So that's the beauty of strength training, mobility training, is it's going to improve your technique without you needing to think about it, which is the real gold stuff, right? Because when you get into a race, you are not going to be thinking about anything. You just have to let things fly, right? Like, almost all of your movement is unconscious. You can only think about one thing at a time, right? That's why coaches that give more than one cue at a time, they never get anything from their swimmers, right? Because their swimmers you can't focus on more than one thing at a time. So if most of your movement is unconscious, what we want to do is we want to improve your technique without you having to think about it, and fundamentally getting down to the basics of strength training and mobility training is an easy way to take a massive swipe at most of that stuff, right? The beauty with all this stuff that I'm talking about is it doesn't take very much time out of your week. Like I said, like our main programs are like 45 minutes. Most of that is just sitting around 3 times a week, not very much. And all of that stuff is making you better able to train in the pool better, right? Which is the most important part, right? The specific stuff that you're doing in the pool, the race pace sessions, particularly. If you're not doing race pace, you're not really training. You're not doing any specific training, at least. And so that stuff is really the gold. And the more we can set your brain up, the more we can set your body up to be able to squeeze more out of those sessions, the faster you're going to be, and the easier it's going to be to go fast. It's going to be almost like what a lot of people explain it as is feeling like taking off the chains. You know, it's like when you're swimming with a parachute, you take the chute off and you feel so light. That is the beauty of what we do, minimalist strength training. And that is something that you do not have to change anything in the pool. All you have to do is add very short sessions, 45 minutes for the most part. We have options for you to go down to 30 minutes and still get 90% of the benefits. If you want to spend a little bit longer, then that's what our add-ons are for. If you want to focus on endurance, we have the endurance ISOs. If you want to focus on mobility, then the mobility bundle is a little add-on that you can do for specific areas. Things like ankle mobility. A lot of people stiff ankles. That stuff is something you don't need to spend much time on, but you can add that in to the sessions. But the most important part of all this is trim the fat, do the neuroprimer, start a minimalist strength training program that integrates strength training without getting you tired, mobility training integrated within that, and a little bit of power work. All of this to help your nervous system be more efficient, help you be more efficient as a human being, so that when you go into your swim sessions, you are better without even thinking about it. I think that's the end of the video. If you got any questions, hit me up in the DMs in the school group. Again, if you want to join that school group, get access to the neuroprimer straight away, and you're not already in there, then there's a link somewhere. We'll get you in. It's completely free. Just start doing the neuroprimer. That's step number 1. Step number 2 is probably take a look at our memberships and follow my stuff on Instagram, follow all this stuff, and just start trying. You are not alone in this. There are so many people who are stuck in a plateau that aren't sure how to get out of it, and this is the easiest, quickest way I have seen to reliably get people out of their plateaus, right? It is not doing more of what is already not working. It is doing something new and getting rid of the old stuff that is just holding you back, getting in the way. All right, that was a long video. Hope this was useful. I'm just rambling now.